There was one more. There was one more. Ah, well. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Leandra, the TBR0, and my goal is to lessen my physical TBR one book at a time. Today I have nearly 30 historical mystery series to talk to you about. Some of them I've read, some of them I haven't, but they're on my radar, and this is basically just a list in case any of you on the internet are looking for a historical mystery. Well, here's a place for you to maybe find something. I am hoping that on this channel to provide a bit of a series of these list dumps for certain subgenres within mystery, tropes, elements, plotting devices that we enjoy, and the first one that I'm doing is historical mysteries. With that said, if in the comments you want to give me some ideas, whether it be a subgenre that you want more examples of, or maybe just some examples of your own, because I do have some lists on the go at the moment, including cozy mysteries, hard-boiled mysteries, golden age detective fiction, one of my favorites. Also sci-fi / fantasy mystery genre blends. That's something I'm really into at the moment, as well as there was one more. There was one more. Ah, well, if you can come up with anything that you think would be really fun to have a nice big list of options to look through one day, then I'm game. So yeah, the comments galore. I would love to hear recommendations or historical mysteries that I missed, because this is not an exhaustive list when it comes to the historical mystery subgenre, because there are so many that I didn't have time or the ability to really research in the time I had. So while I have nearly 30 on this list, there's so many more that I would have liked to talk about. So please make sure you let your fellow reader know that they exist. What we're going to talk about first is the Chronicle of Brother Cadfael. I haven't actually read the series myself, but I know that it's really well loved, especially in the She Done It community where I work. And the author is Ellis Peters. She's a very well loved author across different types of series that she's written. And for this specific series, there are 20 primary works, and it's set in the Welsh mountain village. The reason why it's the first one that I'm talking about on this list is because the setting is 1137. Yes, you heard me right. 1137, the 12th century. I can't believe that someone elected to be like, you know what setting needs to exist for a mystery? Ah, yes, the 12th century. And on top of that, we have obviously like a monastery, monks, and the first book in the series is A Morbid Taste for Bones, and it was published in 1994. The next series I'm going to talk about does have quite a time jump. This is a Lady Librarian series. The author is Samantha Larson. I'm a huge fan of the series. I can say that I've read the 2 books that are currently out, and there's a third one on the way apparently, which I'm very much looking forward to. And this one is a newer series too. It was published in 2023, the first book, A Novel Disguise. It follows a young woman in the 18th century, 1784 to be exact, Miss Tiffany Woodall, and she has to fight oppression, find her own independence as an older woman, an older spinster woman of the time, and she finds a way to become a librarian, and it's really lovely. I love the themes. I love the ability for Samantha Larson to provide diversity. If you want an author to provide you with receipts, she does at the back of the book to prove why this diversity is valid, why some of the endings in her 2 books are also valid, and it's just chef's kiss. Next, we move a little bit more in the timeline into 1815 London with the Lily Adler mystery series. This one I've only tried once before, and it was the Christmas mystery special. I'm considering it a special because it's very much holiday focused, but it is deemed the 4th book in the series. The author is Catherine Shellman, an author that I do want to look more into. There is a series that I really want to try, but I didn't add it to this list, even though it technically is historical mysteries, because it's published out of St. Martin's Press, or rather an imprint from them, and because booktube and other book-focused social media platforms are boycotting them at the moment, I'm not going to be highlighting them here, but I can highlight her series that comes out of, I think it might be Poison Pen, but I could be wrong there. And this first book in the series apparently follows the newly widowed independent woman, Lily Adler, while she's trying to figure out who killed the local blackmailer. I mean, are we surprised? But what's really cool about it is that there are 4 books so far in the series. As I said, I've read the 4th one, and I do want to go back and read book 1, which is The Body in the Garden, published in 2020. Are we surprised that the next 4 historical mystery series are all set during the Regency era? I'm certainly not. The first one I'll talk about, though, is the Mr. Darcy and Miss Tilney mystery series. Those last names might sound very familiar, but not together. What's going on here? Well, it is a Jane Austen mystery series retelling in which the author, Claudia Gray, combines all of our favorite heroines and heroes into one world, and it's really well done in the fact that she times their publications and kind of predicts where the characters would be when they all met. For instance, Mr. Darcy in this case is actually the son of Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy, and then we have Miss Tilney, Juliet Tilney. She's the daughter of, I believe, the love interests from, is it Northanger Abbey? I could be wrong there because I'm not gonna lie, that's one of the Austens I haven't read yet. So far in this series, though, we do have 2 publications, and I've only read one of them. The other one's on my shelf. I really want to get to it. The first one is The Murder of Mr. Wickham, and are we sad that Mr. Wickham ends up dying? No, but it's certainly fun to see which Jane Austen protagonist is the killer. And then we also have The Late Mrs. Willoughby. Again, are we sad that Mrs. Willoughby is apparently dead? No, we're not. And there's a third one already on the way, and it's called The Perils of Lady Catherine de Bourgh. So I'm really excited about this series. And so if you're someone who wants to delve into historical mysteries and you also like the idea of having a comforting cast of characters that you're familiar with or semi-familiar with, then I can recommend this 100%. The next series that's set during the Regency era that I absolutely adore is the Miss Morton mysteries. I've read 2 books to date. The third one is coming out in the fall this year, and I'm really looking forward to it. So this is by Catherine Lloyd. It does come out of Kensington, and the first 2 books are Miss Morton and the English House Party Mystery. Did I do all those words? Yes, it's a long title. And then the next one is Miss Morton and the Spirits of the Underworld. I actually preferred book 1 over book 2, but both are really lovely. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to the third book, which comes out August 2024. With that series in particular, I love the dynamic between Miss Morton and the woman that she's a lady's companion to. The cast of characters is also just really supportive. The same goes for the previous Regency era series I talked about, Tilney and Darcy. They're a really supportive young sleuthing kind of couple. I don't know. Are they going to get together? I hope. But anyways, you'll see a theme here that I really like it when there's a cast of characters that all are kind of Scooby Gang-esque, but in a historical setting. Continuing on, we have the Rosalind Thorne / A Useful Woman series. Why does this series have 2 names? Well, it's because this is one of those unique situations where the author's series ended up switching publishers. So the first 5 books in the series were with Berkeley, and then the most recent 2 are now with Kensington, and so they kind of did a little bit of rebranding, but it's got the same author, the same characters, and the main amateur sleuth is still Rosalind Thorne. I've read the 6th book in the series because I only discovered it when it first switched to Kensington, but I have been meaning to go back to the backlist, check out the origin story of our lovely Miss Thorne. The author for this series / 2 series is Darcy Wilde, and the most recent book is on my list, but we've got just too many books, not enough time. And the last book that I have on this list that is set in the Regency era is actually the Lady Worthing mystery series. There are 2 books out so far, and I actually have access to both of them. Have I read them? No, but I want to. The author is Vanessa Riley, and I think that might be surprising to some people who know of her through other means or other titles that are really intriguing. I think she's known for historical fiction, but maybe not necessarily historical mysteries. This is another series that is really lovely in that it allows diversity in the historical setting, something that we just don't see enough of, whether it's because authors aren't doing the work or they don't really know that diversity can exist in all genres, all subgenres, all time periods. So with Vanessa Riley's historical mystery series, our amateur sleuth, she is a woman of color, and of course she does see some prejudice, some racism, I'm sure, but in Murder in Westminster, she is actually helping someone else, a man whose wife recently passes, I believe, and they kind of work together to figure out what happened to his dead wife. That came out in 2022. I did end up winning a Goodreads giveaway for that, so that was the main reason why I even got that first book, and then the publisher sent me the second one, so I don't know. I obviously need to read both of those in succession ASAP. Moving a little bit further into the timeline, we have 1866 London, and this is with the Dr. Julia Lewis mystery series. I'm really lucky. I have the first one. It is a brand new series, actually. So if you're looking to start one that's fresh, brand new, is just getting started, and you want to support the author so that they have the chance to write more books and feature more characters like this, then check out this series. The first book is Murder by Lamplight. It's by Patrice McDonough, and I am really excited about it, especially because of the various details as far as a progressive, prototypical feminist main character. At least that's my understanding of this. The first book just came out February 2024, and it says that there are grisly murders in London's East End, and it has one of the Great Britain's first female physicians working together with Inspector Tennant to figure out what's going on with this string of crime. I'm really looking forward to it, and this is one of my most anticipated books on this list for sure. We are now firmly in the Victorian era with the Lady Sherlock series. This is by Sherry Thomas. There are 7 primary works out so far. There's an 8th book that is on the way. I believe it's in June 2024, and I have started the series. I've read 2 books. I own books 3 and 4 actually. They're on my to-be-read shelves, but I really love the fact that this story is still ongoing, especially because I ate up books 1 and 2. Book 1 being A Study in Scarlet Women. Obviously, that's a play on A Study in Scarlet, the original story by Arthur Conan Doyle. And then the second book is A Conspiracy in Belgravia, which is also a play off of a short story that you can find in The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. I am clearly a fan of Sherry Thomas and her work. I really love when we see people playing on the idea of Sherlock Holmes, switching things up. And this one is obviously a gender flip. The actual main character is Charlotte Holmes, and because of the time, as far as women not being supported in working and being viewed as important minds that we need to respect and appreciate and give a certain level of power to, Charlotte Holmes finds her power, finds her mobility through her ability to kind of pretend to be this Sherlock Holmes, this mysterious man who seems to know all and help others solve crimes. We are firmly in the 20th century. So in 1917, World War I setting, Fiona Figg Mysteries. I have read the 3rd book in this series, and it was quite fun. It's a bit more leaning espionage. So if you're looking for historical mysteries that lean espionage elements, themes, then this might be the one for you. This is by Kelly Oliver. There are 8 primary works, but this is also similar to the idea of the Rosalind Thorne situation, where I believe that we switched publishers, and so there was some rebranding. And there's the Fiona Figg Mysteries, but then there's the Fiona Figg and Kitty Lane Mysteries. And those of you who really like Father Brown, I think you might appreciate this rebranding, because Fiona Figg ends up taking a niece under her wing, and they become a bit of a sleuthing duo. And I do recall Father Brown having a bit of a switch of characters, and they did swap one woman for her niece later on in that TV series. I don't think that follows the books, because they were books first. But anyways, for this, the first book in that series is Betrayal at Ravenswick. It came out in 2020. As I said, I read book 3, just randomly entered it at book 3, and I had a good time. I really enjoyed it. That was Villainy in Vienna. I really liked the Vienna setting. I liked the backdrop of the war and the awareness of rations. And there was also a bit of a star showing, because we did see what my understanding was Albert Einstein's wife in Vienna meeting our amateur sleuth, and that was a really fascinating situation. A few years later, we move into 1920s England with Beryl and Edwina mystery series. This is another one I jumped in at a random time, but it almost felt like a prequel, and I'll tell you why. We had 7 primary books out. The 8th one comes out June 2024. I read book 7, but it almost felt as though we were having the 2 characters return to where they first met, but you don't get that up until this point. It's almost a reflection. We just know that they were school friends, and in book 7 they return to that school, and we get to kind of see them reminisce about what attracted them to each other, why they're best of friends now, and why they're in business as detectives. And I really appreciate Beryl and Edwina being able to reflect upon that in book 7. So not that I'm telling you should start at book 7, but it wasn't a hindrance to me to do that, and I do kind of want to go back and see where this story started, at least as far as publication date goes. And this is by Jessica Ellicott. What's really interesting about this is that Beryl is an American main character, while Edwina is our typical UK character, a British character, and so you do see some cultural differences that they do explore together during their friendship. This next book is a bit of a bonus because it isn't a series, and it is, again, this kind of idea of retelling and reimagining. We're seeing a theme here. I'm a sucker for reimaginings. This one in particular, though, is a reimagining of The Disappearance of Agatha Christie back in 1926. It's The Mystery of Mrs. Christie by Marie Benedict. I loved this when it first came out. I read it in just a matter of days, and that was before I was a big reader. And it does focus on December 1926, when Agatha Christie, the events leading up to, during, and after her 11-day disappearance. I think it's really fun, and not enough people even realize that Agatha Christie was a bit of a mystery herself at times. For the remainder of this UK list, we are in the 1930s, and that includes the Spectre Locked Room Mysteries. This is by Tom Mead. I've read the first 2 books in the series. The third one is anticipated for this fall, and I'm really excited about it. Actually, not even the fall, the summer, because it comes out July 2024. The first 2 books include Death and the Conjurer, out 2022, and then we also had The Murder Wheel that came out in 2023, and both books were 5 stars for me. I really love Joseph Spector, our kind of aloof magician come sleuth. I really loved how mundane he loved making the world. These crazy locked room mysteries, layered mysteries, there's more than one crime that goes on in every single book, and he's able to demonstrate that they really aren't magical, that they aren't this crazy illusion. In fact, they're quite explainable, and I really love that he still remains an enigma to us, even as he very clearly explains the crimes to us. The other fun thing is that Tom Mead, being an expert on John Dixon Carr and, a huge fan of the Golden Age, what he does at the end of every single book is he provides a clues key where he outlines every single section in the book where he provided us a clue to solve the crime, and that's just something we don't see very often nowadays. And if you want that oldies kind of feel, definitely check them out. The next book on this list is one I still need to read, and it certainly does have its titles on my shelves, I'm not gonna lie. That's the Philida Bright Mysteries. It is also a reimagining or a retelling of sorts. In fact, one of the characters in the books is Agatha Christie herself, but she's not the main attraction. It's actually her housekeeper or maid. I can't really remember what the title of Philida Bright is, but she assists in Agatha Christie's homes and happens to solve a lot of crimes that Agatha Christie ends up getting mixed up in. And the author is Colleen Cambridge. There are 3 books out so far. The one that I own is Murder by Invitation Only. I have the 3rd book in the series, and I could quite easily go back and read 1 and 2. That's the nice thing, but to my understanding, you don't necessarily have to. What it reminds me of is A Murder is Announced. I feel as though that's definitely one of the inspirations for Colleen Cambridge. Actually, when I first talked about on social media the fact that I had both of those books and I wanted to read them kind of in succession, in tandem, the author responded saying that A Murder is Announced is one of her favorite Christie narratives, and that of course just fuels my fire, so I'm really looking forward to it. But if you want to start on book 1, Murder at Mallowan Hall is also great, and also Mallowan, that is an homage to the fact that Agatha Christie's second husband's last name was Mallowan. Anyways, you might not need to know that, and that came out in 2021. We now move into 1936 London with the Canary Club Mysteries. This one looks really cool too. The author is Louise Hare. There are 2 books out so far, and the first book is Miss Aldridge Regrets, and that came out in 2022. That one's really fascinating because it starts off in London, but then it actually is set on a cruise ship going to New York, and my understanding is the second book occurs in Harlem. So I definitely really want to try this series. This is yet again another example of a BIPOC author providing BIPOC representation as well. So if you do want that, you want to be able to diversify your shelves, then it seems as though Louise Hare is a good place to start. Rounding out this list of UK historical settings, we have 1932 London with Her Royal Spyness. This is a really popular series, and it also lends itself to a bit of espionage. So again, if that's your thing, definitely check this out. The author is Rhys Bowen, a very well-loved author, and for this one series, she's published more than one, but this one in particular has 18 primary works. I have read 1 book in this series, and it is one of the Christmas ones. It was 12 Clues of Christmas, and it was really fun. It was really cute. I appreciated the Christmas vibes. I do want to go back and start with book 1 because I do happen to own it. The first book is actually the title of the series, Her Royal Spyness, that came out in 2007, and it follows Georgie. The whole kind of, I suppose, fun element to it is that Georgie is the 34th in line to the royal throne. She will never end up being the Queen of England, as we know, but it adds a little bit of fun to the fact of like who she knows, what parties she finds herself involved in, and yeah, I definitely want to get to this series and go back and start with book 1. Leaving the UK, but staying in the Commonwealth, I have 2 book series that are set in Australia, and they are very much related to each other. The first one I'll talk about is 1920s Melbourne with Phryne Fisher Mysteries series. This is a book series that eventually became a TV series that is very popular and super fun. I have watched the TV show, but I've never actually gone back and read the books, so this is on my TBR. The author is Carrie Greenwood, and there are 22 primary works so far, because the most recent book came out in 2022, so who knows, there could be more in this series. I don't think that was announced as the last book, but you never know. And the first book is Cocaine Blues. It was actually published back in 1989, so I think we have a current new winner as far as the oldest publication date. So look out, Ellis Peters, you're now bumped to number 2. The reason why I'm having 2 series that I'm saying are kind of related is because the next one on our list is 1960s Melbourne, and this is the Miss Fisher's Modern Murder Mysteries. What could this be? Well, it actually follows Phryne Fisher's niece, Peregrine Fisher. And very weirdly, this book is based off of a TV series that's based off of a TV series that's based off of the original books by Carrie Greenwood. Are you following? I have seen the first episode, the pilot episode of the Miss Fisher's Modern Murder Mysteries, mainly because I read the first book in this book series that's based off of it. The new author is actually Catherine Kovacic, and the book is called Just Murdered. It came out in 2021. I haven't seen anyone talk about a second book coming out, but I really hope that it does, because I loved it. I ate it up, and I had a really good time then following my read with watching the TV show that it's based off of. It was a really great experience. So Catherine Kovacic, if you're watching, please keep writing. Now we're going to spend a very brief stint in Canada, because this is a series I've been really meaning to read, and I had no idea that it was set in British Columbia, but now I'm even more intrigued. So we are in 1946, British Columbia, Canada, with the Lane Winslow series. The author is Iona Wishaw, and apparently there are 10 books out in this series, and 1 to come out in May 2024, so in just about 2 months. And the first book is A Killer in King's Cove. This book was published in 2015. I do have it on my shelves, and I love the muted tones of these titles. I'll try to feature a few others just to see the color scheme of this series, but I feel like it's going to be up my alley, and it seems really fun. The first book follows Lane Winslow. I think it's post-World War II. She's trying to settle in, trying to kind of live a quieter life, and no one knows her in this town, and yet I believe that when they find someone murdered, it's either in their pocket or on their person, there is a note that has her name on it, so of course she's mixed up into this murder. Something to that effect, and it really sounds awesome. Now we'll be crossing south of the border to the United States, and the first book that I'm going to talk about, and it is a book, because I don't think that a series has been announced just yet based off of it. It is Murder by Degrees. The author is Ritu Mukherjee. The book just came out October 2023, and actually, one moment, I recently borrowed it from the library. Doesn't it look so cool? The setting is really intriguing as well. It's set in 1875 Philadelphia. I actually happen to be a resident of Pennsylvania State, where this city is located, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know it a little bit better, especially because apparently it's set at a women's medical college of Pennsylvania, and there's a disappearance of a patient, and our sleuth, Dr. Lydia Weston, needs to figure out what's going on, find this patient. Are they dead? Are they missing? Were they taken? I want to know more, and if I end up loving it, I really hope that Mukherjee continues with the series. Moving on to 1926, and I can't tell you a single setting because it's a traveling mystery series, which we definitely love. This is the Jane Wunderly mysteries. The author is Erica Ruth Neubauer. There are 5 books currently published, and the first one is Murder at Mena House. It is set in Egypt, 2020, and I actually do have a few books on my shelves as well for this one. So we have Secrets of a Scottish Isle, and I think there is one more. Why can't I find it? I definitely have another one that I think is set in Istanbul. So this just seems like a really fun traveling historical mystery series. The reason why I am putting it in the US category, the way I've organized this video, is because the main character is American, and I feel like we're probably going to see a lot of American culture as she's traveling to these other countries. We are now moving from the Northeast to the West Coast for Easy Rawlins Mystery Series. This is by Walter Mosley. It is a classic series that has 15 primary works associated with it. The first book is Devil in a Blue Dress, and it is set in 1948 Los Angeles, but it was published in 1990. This one I think is really good for hard-boiled noir fans. I will admit that this isn't a series for me. I really didn't like the first book, so I probably won't continue it myself, just because I have a hit or miss history with hard-boiled noir, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't add it to this list. We only spent a little time on the West Coast. We're going back to New York City in the 1950s. 1950 specifically, the start of the decade, with Viviana Valentine / A Girl Friday mystery series. The main character, the amateur sleuth herself, is Viviana Valentine, but she starts off the series as a girl Friday, as the secretary to a private investigator. And then she kind of proves her chops, solves a few mysteries, and ends up eventually in the series being promoted to being a private investigator herself. This is by Emily J. Edwards. 3 books have been published so far, and I've read all 3 of them. I really love the series. I love the characters. It's super fun. I will say that the 3rd book is probably my least favorite, but I have high hopes as the series continues because Viviana Valentine is vivacious. She's determined. She's got a bit of a mouth on her, and we love it. And I really love the New York City setting. Yeah, this series is just really close to my heart. I love Viviana Valentine to bits. Another series that is actually on my list to read in the next week, at least the first book is, that is the Evander Mills mystery series by Lev A.C. Rosen. 2 books are out so far. There's a 3rd book on the way coming in October 2024, and this is set in 1952 San Francisco. The first book is Lavender House. It came out in 2022, and that's the book that's on my list. I really, really want to read it in the next week, so cross your fingers for me. It seems so fun. It also provides a really great representation of queer culture, I believe, especially in the 1950s, and I feel as though there might be some thriller vibes because these people who are living in this house have things happen, and now they just don't really know who to trust or what's going on following the rules of the house. I don't know much more about it, but yeah, it seems really interesting. I have 3 more mystery series on this list, and they do take place either in Singapore or India. The first one I'll talk about is the Harriet Gordon mystery series. There are 5 primary works out so far. The author is A.M. Stewart, and it is set in 1910 Singapore. The first book is called Singapore Sapphire. It came out in 2019. I think this book series, hopefully, as well as the 2 that I have read that I can confirm, have themes of colonialism, what it is like to live in a situation in which you are being occupied by another stronger force, the clashing of cultures, the clashing of justice and its definition. So I'm hoping that A.M. Stewart went that route, but I can confirm that the other 2 did. And one of those is the Crown Colony mystery series by Avidia Yu. This is set in 1936 Singapore, so just a few decades later, and there are 7 primary works so far. The first book is the Frangipani Tree mystery. I did really enjoy that. I found that the mystery was pretty complex. I liked the characters, the plotting. Sue Lin as a main character, she's 16 years old. She's probably the only teen or child main character sleuth that I have on this list, which obviously is something that I should work on. I should try to find younger sleuths as I move forward, maybe in a part 2 of historical mystery series lists. And the one thing I will say though is that there is fat phobia in this book. I don't know if it continues after book 1, but it is something to take note of because that impacted my reading experience 100%. And finally, we have the Kaveri Ramu mystery series. This is set in 1920s Bangalore. The author is Harini Nagendra, and I have read the first 2 books in this series. There are 3 published thus far. The first one is The Bangalore Detectives Club. The second one was Murder Under a Red Moon. I think this is a really solid mystery series. The unique element to it is that we have a married couple. They have an arranged marriage, so they're getting to know each other, supporting each other, and they're also quite progressive for the time, which the author acknowledges, but I think it's something that the author doesn't shy away from. She embraces the fact that they are progressive for their culture as far as embracing others who are part of a different caste, supporting those who need justice, but justice isn't serving them for whatever reason. And I find it very wholesome. It's a really good series, and I'm glad that it rounded out this list. All right, those are the 27 potentially historical mystery series that I have for you today, and I hope that you found a few that you were able to write down, note for later, and maybe investigate, because the ones that I have read, I have really enjoyed, other than the Easy Rollins one, which again was probably more of a me thing than a Walter Mosley thing. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of them, if there are any historical mystery series that I've missed that you're just like, Leandra, what are you doing? The people need to know about it, as well as any other books that I think would fit the other lists that I'm looking into. So again, just to recap, cozy mysteries, hard-boiled noir. We also have sci-fi / fantasy, mystery genre blends in general, and I think that's it. Golden Age as well. Thank you so much for getting to the end of this video. I know that this was kind of exhausting for me recording it, but also potentially for you watching it. So I do appreciate your continued support, and I hope you consider joining the community if you aren't already a part of it. All right, I really do hope to see you next time. Bye!